Okay, guys, welcome back to the Rally Room. I'm Isaac Hunter. We're bringing the podcast back again. We have the Summer Rally Room edition, where the owners, CJ and Jason, have ran that in the past, where you guys get all of your numbers, top 10s, housekeeping competitions, all that good stuff. Sometimes we'll run like raffles for you guys to win RID coin. During the off season, though, I feel inadequate but humbled, and I love doing this. Podcasts are a lot of fun, especially I get to talk to some really cool people. And this is probably going to be one of the coolest ones. We've got Lenny Gray with us today. Just a couple things about Lenny before, and I want to give him the floor with a lot of this today. But Lenny, if you guys don't know, he's written multiple books. And I want to talk about those for a sec. I just this week read Door-to-Door Millionaire, as well as Pest Control Door-to-Door Sales, and then there's also a third one, More Door-to-Door Millionaire.
Right. Yep.
And I had this epiphany, guys. As you guys are learning, or even vets, like the scripts that you learn, or the one-liners that you rip on the doors, the things that you guys say. When was Door-to-Door Millionaire published?
I think it was 2012 or 2013.
Okay, so, and did that take you a while to write, or like?
So it was interesting. That's a great question, because I kind of felt like I'd been writing it since I started.
Yeah.
And so, but just compiling my experience. So I started in 1998, knocking doors in the summer, just summer sales job for pest control. And so when I started, I was given a 10-page manual, it was like nothing. And I felt like a week on the doors, I had it memorized, and I'm like, there is so much more to this. So I feel like I hadn't really put it down and laid it down like a book, but I feel like a lot of my stories, obviously, as you read it, there's a lot of real examples that happened when I was knocking, or when I was knocking with other people. So to really sit down, though, what I did is I basically locked myself in the basement I'd go 2 hours in the morning from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. and just write. Just anything that was on my mind, I'd write. And then from 10 p.m. to midnight every day, and this was 6 days a week, 10 p.m. to midnight, I would edit what I wrote earlier to make sure I was like actually cognizant and awake. And so I did that for, I want to say, probably about 3 or 4 months, somewhere around there. And so after 4 months, I kind of had the structure of the book, and that's when I went and put it out to a publisher and said, hey, what do you think? And so it took, it obviously is a whole experience as far as my story in Door-to-Door when it started, but to actually physically just sit down and write it, it was a good 3 or 4 months.
Well, the reason I bring the books up is, if there's one person, and Lenny and I were talking about this, to learn how to sell anything door-to-door, and we're going to talk about pest control specifically today, and whatever else actually, but for you guys it's pest control. He's the most practical person out there. Sometimes the managers you have, they're going to give you some of this woo-woo, hey, just go out and sell more, right? But no, Lenny gets into the details of like, this is what you say, this is how you say it, this is when you say it, this is how to sell DIYers, this is how to sell switchovers, just super practical. But the epiphany I had was I was listening to Door-to-Door Millionaire. It's written in 2012, and I hear pitches from every industry, and doesn't matter what it is, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that came from Lenny. Like, everything you guys probably say on the doors came from this man. So that is who Lenny Gray is. So seriously, there's nobody better to talk to. So yeah, Lenny, you've already kind of talked about it. It's like you started knocking doors in 1998. Kind of give us like the quick timeline from how you got into it. He talks about it in his book. You should probably go get it. It's like $3 right now, I think.
It's so cheap. Yeah, and Amazon does their price. I have no control. And by the way, you don't make any money selling books, by the way, so it's not like a moneymaker for me, but go get it. Yeah, I would. This is the best I've ever heard somebody say to me is they're like, it is worth the investment to buy the physical copy and then listen to it while you're following along with the text. And it's just a better comprehension.
Yeah.
But literally that investment for one of the books is, it's going to be $15 or something like that to get the Audible and the paperback or the hardcover, whatever you want to get. But
do it. I will, for when this releases, the first 5 people to message me on Instagram, Isaac C. Hunter, I will buy you the books. I will buy them for you because it's that practical of information and will better you as a sales rep. So yeah, back to your life. Kind of give us the quick rundown. Again, I guess the one other thing I want to mention is you've built multiple businesses, sold multiple businesses. So again, we're super grateful to have Lenny here with us. But yeah, just talk about kind of your life real quick. I think that's where the best lessons are learned is from people who have done it.
Yeah,
so.
I'll give the quick version too, because nobody wants to hear the whole story. But yeah, so I literally had a buddy of mine that I played football with in high school, and he tried to convince me to go out and sell for him, and I didn't believe him because I was like, pest control, I've never heard of that. If my family needed it, we couldn't afford it. So I'm like, I don't even believe it. So he went out though, and I told him, hey, if it's real, like let me know, and I might be interested next year. And he called me in the fall and said, I made 25 grand or whatever it was. You got to come sell for me. I'm going to team lead, next year in Birmingham, Alabama. So yeah, my wife and I, we packed up everything we owned pretty much, put it in the Altima and drove across the country to Birmingham. And that's kind of where it started. And ended up being the rookie of the year that year, sold about 500 accounts my first year, again, with very little know-how. I was just
10 pages.
Yeah, 10 pages, and I was like, I'm just going to work harder than everybody, because I was in an office with a bunch of experienced reps, like really top dogs in the company, and I was a nobody. So I was given the scraps as far as area and where I was going and what I was assigned. So I just made the most of it. And
do you remember any of the content that was in those 10 pages? Like what was even in
the one thing I remember is they had this light bulb close. I remember that was, and I don't know if you guys have heard of that,
tomorrow,
but
right?
but yeah, it's like, well, you're talking, and then midstream you're like, oh yeah, no, you don't have bugs inside, right? Or something like, oh, you're going to be here tomorrow, right? Yeah. It's like this light bulb, and I always thought it seemed a little fake and canned, and I don't know. So, but I remember that, and I was like, okay, that's probably the only thing. But I still have the manual. I just haven't looked at it forever.
You should put that in your next version of the book.
I totally should. Here's what I started with. Now here's what you have. So a whole library. So yeah, I did that. Worked for that company, Eclipse Marketing. I worked for them for 5 years. Sold for 3 straight summers. And then I got hired as the VP of Sales and wrote all the content, all their scripts, their videos, all their training stuff for Orkin, which I heard recently that Orkin still uses to this day, which is pretty cool that it's withstood the test of time over decades. And then in 2003, I started my own company in Salt Lake and grew that. We were the largest residential company in the state after 5 years, exited that one in 2007. In the meantime, we'd built up a bunch of branches in the Northwest. We sold all of them, but one office in Minnesota where our headquarters were, we sold that group in 2014. And then we had an exit just barely this year in 2025 where we sold all of them. So we've had 3 exits, and yeah, that's a little quick history of my life in pest control.
Love it. So again, guys, nobody better to talk to and learn from as far as how to build an organization. I guess, you built multiple businesses. It was mostly all through Door-to-Door. Was that always kind of like the main?
Yeah, that was the main. That was always I always say that the kind of the foundation of all of our branches were built on the backs of Door-to-Door teams.
Yeah.
But over time, to get the multiple, and as you're exiting, like acquirers don't just want a bunch of door-to-door accounts. Now, granted, our door-to-door accounts would stick 80+%, somewhere over summer, past that first year. So we had a really high retention of accounts, which is huge. But even then, if it's just door-to-door, you don't get the multiple that you might get if you've got some other ways of growth.
So yeah, there is that stigma that door-to-door accounts maybe aren't quite as good as like an office account or an inbound sale, which there's probably a little validity to that, right? Somebody that's immediately calling in that has a need, that has a problem versus a cold contact on that initial interaction. But you just proved that it doesn't have to be that way. What did you teach your guys? Like why were your accounts better than most?
I mean, the first thing we can't forget is it's about the service, right? Like if you have a good service, a great service, high quality service that builds value with the customer, and you have a good relationship with the customer, even that relationship probably trumps the value of the service, because if you have somebody you trust and you like, if they mess up or you need a call for a couple reservices, they're going to be like, whatever, yeah, like I like this guy, I like this gal, she's been great with servicing our home. And we literally, in Minnesota, when we started in I think 2005 is 2006 when we started Minnesota to when we left, our first technician was still with us. Like, she was amazing, and people loved her. Well, she was in Minnesota when we started there.
Oh, okay.
And until we sold in 2025, so we're like 20 years.
Oh my gosh.
She was still a technician for us.
Jeez.
And so you treat your people right, you have a great quality service, you build great relationships with your customers from the get-go, right? From that initial service. Like, that's a huge part. Now, do the sales reps have a lot to do with that as well? 100%. We know reps that go out there and they sell a lot of accounts, but their retention sucks, and they're probably just not doing a few simple things, or they're saying things they don't need to say. And we just try to train that out of reps. You know, let's look at it long term and almost oversell that. You know, you can try us out for the first year. Most of our clients stay with us as long as they're in their home, because we're going to create such a great service for you. We're going to provide a great service and create, you know, high value for what you're getting.
Yeah, well, that's what I manage, is inside sales as well as our retention department.
Okay.
So I see firsthand all the crap, and we know everything. You can't fake it anymore. There's too many safeguards in place, and at the end of the day, guys, like, I think Lenny's right. I don't think most of sales reps go out with the intentions of, like, I'm here to scam people.
Sure.
They're just maybe afraid or hesitant of, like, oh, what if do I need to say this to get the deal? Do I need to tell them that we're going to go in the attic completely? Or do we just tell them, like, you know, it's not super necessary for the problem that you have? Like, just sell.
It's an oversell.
Yeah, you're overselling, and there's no need to.
No.
Undersell and overdeliver. Yeah, I had that backwards.
That's it.
So you've been in the industry for a really long time. My father-in-law, he knocked doors in the 80s.
Okay.
So
even before me.
He's an OG too.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, it was not a big thing back then at all. And there was no training then. And I think now it's 2025. There's too much training. There's YouTube. There's unlimited. There's AI.
Now you have to decide what's the real training versus just the fake stuff that, you know, you plug into AI. I had somebody do a comparative. I was consulting for a roofing company, and they compared me and somebody else, probably everybody knows, like in his operation, and they said, can you compare the two? Like, who should we go with? And it literally, like, AI spit out like this whole big thing about me and this other guy, and it was like, you know, you can get whatever information you want. Doesn't mean it's all good.
Yeah.
But there's almost too much information.
So on that same note, with, like, just kind of the changing way that, you know, reps are trained, how has the sales industry itself also evolved over your career? Has it changed much to you, or is it still like those same principles you learned back in 1998 or 2000 or whatever, you know, when you wrote Door-to-Door Millionaire 2012? Have you kind of changed your mind on some things at all, or is it,
There's a few things. I mean, for the most part, it's held true, and we talked about not just D2D, but B2B or B2C. Like, the principle is the same. I coach companies and have been involved with companies that are going business to business or doing phone sales. Like everybody, sales is the same language. Where you jump on my path, I call it my sales flow. Where you jump on that path is the only thing that changes. I would think the biggest change for me from, the 90s, early 2000s to now is just, I think people, two things. Number one, their attention span has shrunk. Like, people aren't as willing to listen to you as long as they were. In my first book, it says 45 seconds is the name of one of my chapters, and that's how long. If I could rewrite that, it'd be like 20 to 30 seconds now, just because I think the attention span. But number two is, I used to go out for Orkin pest control in the off-season, and they'd fly me all over the country. And they'd say, go knock doors in Portland or in Denver, and these markets that nobody had knocked doors and done door-to-door pest. And they'd say, just see if you can sell there. Let's see if it's viable there. Let's see if we can do it. And I'd go there, and I found myself, like, people were very interested, but wouldn't pull the trigger because it's like, we've never heard of this before. Nobody's ever knocked on our door and tried to sell us pest control. Yeah. That's gone. Like, it doesn't matter what state you go in now, you're going to knock a door and somebody's already been approached by a bug guy. Yeah. So that's very different in terms of, that's why you got to get better at switchovers. That's why you got to get better at talking to people, making a good impression. Like, DIYers, like all those things, because pest control's very normal now, whereas back in the day, it just wasn't.
Yeah, I did a summer in California, and my first summer was in Texas. and then I was in Phoenix and then California.
Okay.
And so those first 2 markets, it was that, people just weren't, they knew door-to-door. The pitch had to be a lot quicker. And it was good. It made me a good salesperson.
Yeah.
Going to California was the dream because licensing, it's really hard to knock doors there, actually. You have to pass like a test in order to knock. And the flip was I was literally just like trying to convince them that pest control was a legitimate thing and we could actually like help them like get rid of some of their bugs. They're like, you can't get rid of these spiders. It's not going to happen.
100%.
So
100%.
But it was cool because there was a need. So one of the questions, actually, this came from my brother, Sam Hunter. He's hit Golden Door 4 times now.
Yeah.
He's just absolute stud.
Yep.
So this question came from him, but he wanted to know if you've ever had a mentor or if you've kind of just been self-taught throughout the years and everything the 3 books you've written, the wealth of knowledge you've had has just been from the work that you've put in.
Yeah. I mean, other than that 10-page manual, I guess, that I started with, that had some influence on me. But I wouldn't even read sales books. Like my wife, years ago, before I wrote my first book, I was in the process of writing it. She's like, hey, I've got this book you might be interested in. It's kind of a sales book, and I know you don't like to read sales books. Because I was, and I'm not like this anymore, but I'd always get a little scared that if I start reading other people's stuff, like it might jack up what I'm doing, and I'm pretty good at what I do.
Yeah.
So I was really fearful of reading other books. But she said, you need to read this book. I think it'd be helpful. And it was How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
She's like, just read it and see what you think. And I read it, and I was like, dang, this is so good. And it was really jiving with kind of what I was writing about anyway. So that was the only sales book I'd ever read as I was writing. So everything is just like pure grind on the doors. Like everything that I've learned, everything that I put out, all my scripts is from trial and error. It's like I always say, it's like sharpening a pencil. I just kept like shaving off a little piece of wood every time until I got that pencil like perfectly sharpened. So
it's funny because that question that my brother asked stemmed from that, where he's like, dude, because if any of you know Sam, he's a ripper, but he's also just crazy. He served at LDS Mission. He went and did D1 soccer at UVU. And then I convinced him to come and sell pest control. And he was all over the place before the summer trying to get him to train. He basically went out with no training. Ended up being the rookie of the year that summer, and then now he's hit Golden Door 4 times. We'll have him on the pod again. But that was the main thing he said too, is just like, dude, I've never had like a long enough attention span to like go listen to these sales books or whatever, which is funny because that's how I am.
Sure, different. It's different for different people.
I love reading books.
Yeah.
But he does a lot of stuff on social media now, and it's all just been from stuff he's learned being down in the trenches day after day after day, tweaking things, testing things, finding what works. So that's cool. I guess on that same note, speaking of like Sam, the best sales rep we have, and frankly, I'd put Sam up against anybody in the industry. I know Lenny came and spoke to our leadership team. And he said that he would outsell anybody, and I love that confidence. I'd love to see a showdown between you guys.
There we go.
But now, what are some of the best like attributes and traits that you see in some of the best sales reps that you work with as you consult, or maybe reps that you've just seen in the industry? What makes them different from the average Joe?
Cold plunge. No, I'm totally kidding.
Cold plunge sauna.
I'm not. I don't buy into all that stuff. So even though, like I said, I have to go off on a tangent, but I do feel like the industry turns into like a lot of stuff that is irrelevant. What's relevant is you out on the street and you knocking doors and talking to people. That's the only thing that matters, right? That's the measurable. That's where the measurables start. It always, and I was talking to Sam about that at that leadership, where it's like, all these people get up there and I'm up at 4:30 and I do this many squats and I eat this many macros and this. That's all great, because if it makes you healthy and happy, then fantastic. Is it going to make you a better sales rep? No. Like you could have the most dialed in diet and exercise routine, but if you don't know how to say, what to say, and when to say it, then it doesn't matter.
If you're not eating Popeyes every day during the summer, you will not be successful. That was the key for me.
There it is. See, so yeah, I don't buy into that. What I do buy into though is I do buy into repetition. I do buy in to just going out. Like my first year, that's what separated me. I wrote a goal down. It was called my do or die goal. That's what they had us do at their Super Saturday training, and I gave it to my manager. He looked at the goal, and he kind of chuckled, and he says, "Wait, you're a first year guy, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, nobody's ever done this in the company before, right? I was like, so? And he's like,
accountability.
Yeah, and he said, well, what are you going to do different than anybody else that this company's ever had to hit this goal? And I had it dialed in. I said, I'm going to knock this many hours a day. I'm going to talk to this many people. I'm going to sell this many accounts. I'm going to do that 6 days a week. I'm going to be working 16 weeks. And I knew day to day, hour to hour, exactly what I needed to do. So I was the one that, even though we had an 11 o'clock training meeting, I was out at 10 o'clock every morning to talk to 5 people. I was just getting repetition. I felt like nobody could control my work ethic. There's uncontrollables, the weather and whether people answer their door and all those things that are out of my control. If I could just stick in my lane and say, if I was out on the doors and I was talking and knocking on doors that looked like people were home and talking to enough people, like that was my secret sauce. And it always has been.
So there was a rule, or you call it a rule, I'm pulling up.
3-door rule.
The knock to talk ratio.
Yeah.
So this is a little plug from the leadership training that Lenny gave, but he calls it the knock to talk ratio, if you want to say that real fast.
Yeah, so I have a 3-door rule where essentially I always find it humorous when companies measure how many doors somebody knocks. Because I'm like, I've never sold anybody just knocking on the door. Like, I have to actually talk to a human being, right? A decision maker. So I came up with the 3-door rule where in door-to-door, if you're just out knocking doors and nobody answers, it gets really boring. You don't make any money. You get inside your head and you start questioning life and your life choices all of a sudden. And it's like, what am I doing?
I knocked 21 doors once without an answer, and I thought I was going to go insane.
I know. It's like, it is. It's insanity to do that. So my 3-door rule basically says if I knock 3 doors in a row and I don't talk to somebody, like, I am looking for signs of life somewhere. Do I see somebody out pulling weeds, mowing their lawn, a garage door open? Like, I will walk a block to go get that person out there that's, just I saw them go out and get their mail while I was knocking on an empty door. Like, I'll go down to that house before I'll just keep knocking door after door after door. So the knock to talk ratio to me, at minimum, has to be 25%. It should be higher, but at minimum, 1 in every 4 doors you knock, you should be talking to a decision maker.
Cool. It's a good plug. Going back to this, I wanted to ask you, because one of the questions, like every year, and you probably had this at Rove, I think everybody deals with this, where majority of an organization every year seems to be rookies. Like, you just recruit a lot, right?
Churn.
And and then you lose a lot. What is it about these sales reps that go out 1 month in and they just can't crack the code? 2 months in, maybe you can't crack the code and they quit. Like, what is it that's missing for those guys? Where's the missing piece for them to, like, figure out sales? Because there is that learning curve. You talk about it in your book. We talk about it here at RID all the time. So where is it that people go wrong and can't get through that wall?
So I think the first thing is what are the expectations when somebody is recruited? Like,
okay.
we've always felt like we can have the best preseason training. We do hours of preseason training with reps from, my books and that. We have training manual, like all the stuff, right, that you would want reps to know to give them as much real life experience as you can before they knock that first door on their own. So we do that, but we also let reps know, regardless of how well we train you, like, to actually physically get out and start talking to people, that's where the rubber meets the road. Yeah. And the expectation is, don't decide if you can do this or not until you've talked to 600 people. That's kind of our magic number that we found, that once the rep talks to 600 people, we'll know and they'll know if they're cut out for this. To talk to 600 people, our goal is 50 people a day, 6 days a week, so it's normally 2 weeks. Some reps, it might take 3 or 4. But after 3 or 4 weeks, and after talking to 600 people, legitimately talking to 600 decision makers, now we can see, is a rep progressing? Now, their progression slope might be steeper or more shallow, but we just have to see if there is progression. If there's not, it's okay if somebody's not built for door-to-door. They could have all the good intentions, but if it's just not for them, that's okay. Like, I think us as door-to-door people are like the 1%ers in the world that would actually do this. Like, I really feel that. And so
you can't count anybody out either, too, which is the hard part. I've seen some people that, try to never judge, but it's just like, I wouldn't have expected them to do
They
as
have
well
no
as they
business doing what they do, and yet they do it.
Crush it.
Yeah, they do it. So that's why I say, if you set that expectation in the recruiting to where, hey, you're going to come in, and I'm going to tell you the first 2 to 4 weeks are going to absolutely suck. You might not make any money. It's just going to be miserable. that's okay. Stick it out. Like, it only gets better from there. You're doing the hardest or the most difficult part you are doing in those first little bit. I mean, our COO, Rob, been with that guy. He was our first sales rep we hired at Rove after I was, doing my thing, knocking on my own. But then we hired him year 2. He went out as a young kid. I think he just finished high school. His first 2 weeks in Albuquerque, New Mexico, he got 0.
Bageled.
First 2 weeks. And the only reason he didn't go back home is he had no money. And
nothing else to lose.
He's like, I couldn't afford a train ticket. I couldn't, a bus. And he's like, I just had to stay there. Dude ended up being the top rookie in his office. And it is just because he just stuck out the crap. He waded through the crap and the tough parts. But I do feel like it is a different day and age, going back to your original question, in that there's so much training now. I think reps are just getting better. And I love it. Like, people say, how many was your best summer? And, oh, you don't have the best summer anymore. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like hopefully I had a part in that person being able to, week 1 sell 55 versus my week 1 back in the day was 45. It's like, maybe what I say and what I learned could be taught to somebody else to elevate. And I'm all about that. Like, I don't have to be like the best, like have to sell the most or that's not very relevant to me anymore. I mean, it was, but back in the day, but.
Well, I guarantee, back to my epiphany, that even the best of the best are still using stuff that you have taught that's just kind of been assimilated into the industry.
Yeah.
So whether they realize it or not, you played a part in some of these records that are getting broken.
Yeah,
so
I love it. And I just want to elevate the industry where we're selling a lot of accounts, but we're selling it the right way as well. I mean, I'm a huge ethics, integrity guy. Like, you don't try to cheat the system, because there's bad apples out there. For good reason, the door-to-door industry is judged the way it is sometimes. I mean, you might have your parents or your in-laws or whatever look at you sideways like, oh, you're going to be a door-to-door guy. And it's because they probably got scammed by a door-to-door guy.
Yeah.
And it sucks. So it's like, if we can all do our part and elevate the industry, I think the industry's been so good to me. I mean, think about it, Isaac. I mean, I've been doing it almost 30 years, for crying out loud. And it's like, man, I'm set up for life. It's awesome. And it's because of what I learned out knocking doors. And so if I can pass that on to other people to help them get to where they want to be in life, it's incredible to be part of that at whatever level.
It really brings out like the competitive side of you. But yeah, door-to-door is so hard. I did 5 years. Yeah. And there were times where, like, I sold really well every year. I mean, to my standard, I'm not selling golden door level status, but did you ever have like moments in your career, maybe on like the business side of things, or even when you were, how many like full summers did you knock?
5.
Okay, so 5.
Yeah.
Did you ever have like really hard days? Like where you were just like sitting on the power box, sitting on the curb, and you're just
crying
like,
in the fetal
what
position.
Am I doing? Like, did you ever have days like that?
Man, maybe every day. What days didn't I have? Maybe that'd be. No, I mean, even my 3rd year. So my 3rd summer in Jacksonville, Florida. Actually, it was mostly Jacksonville, and then we had to go up to Macon because we outsold. They're like, we don't want any more accounts. Like, you've just like killed us. So, which was awesome.
Problem.
But we that summer, I'll never forget. I sold about 700 pest accounts, and I had 4 days of 0 that summer. That was when I had 23 in a day as well.
Yeah.
But I had 4 bagels. And I had 1 in May, 1 in June, 1 in July, and 1 in August. I can probably remember those 4 days just as well as I can remember the 23 day. So just because I was selling the lights out, that's what my mindset on door-to-door salespeople is that when everybody wakes up in the morning, we all have the same number of sales. And it doesn't really matter what we did before. We have to prove ourselves today, and that's the mentality that's so rough, right? That just grinds on people's minds and gears is because you got to prove yourself every day in the field. You can't rely on what you did in the past. And so every morning that I got up, it was the same mindset, whether I had 0 the day before or 23 the day before. It's like, today's a whole new day. I'm going to take the positive momentum from good days. I'm going to leave the negative momentum behind, and I'm just going to take that day and make that day that day.
Yeah.
And that's really what helped me, because everybody struggles, and I know there's reps out there that are like, I've never had a 0, and Lenny had 4 zeros his 3rd summer, and hey, that's great.
Yeah,
probably read my training, so good for you.
I used to tell reps when I was knocking doors, like, there's waves, ups and downs, and you kind of want to ride in the middle. And my brother Sam actually kind of shut me down on this. because he's like, if I had a 20-day yesterday or a 10-day yesterday, I'm going to be feeling high. And you kind of take the emotion out of it. You wake up the next day and you're at 0. Why would I not want to stay high?
Yeah.
And like when you're on the lows, you want to get out of those as quick as possible. But it's just like, yeah, every day you go into every day, no matter what you sold the day before, it's just like, I know I can sell. Yeah. I'm confident I can sell. In your book, you talked about a couple stories where there was that company in Canada that was going to go under.
Yeah.
And you weren't planning on like ripping deals for them, and then they ask you what your sales goal is, and you're like, what's the company record? Yeah. Okay, I'll go beat that. And you did that the first day. Yeah. You went to another
Tied it the second day. I had to catch a flight, Isaac. I still had hours to knock. I could have beat it, but it is what it is. So.
But that's exactly that principle. Is just like, you know what you're capable of, and you go out and just consistently hit it. You're just constant. Yep. So, okay, so now I kind of want to switch gears a little bit. We've talked a lot about like sales principles. Now, as like a business leader and somebody who's a founder who's had multiple sales, sold multiple businesses, why do some leaders, let's say like year one, when you started your business here in Utah, did you sell accounts for your business by yourself? Yeah. Is that what you did?
So it was me and my partner, and I was selling, he was spraying. That was it. Okay. We were a two-man show.
And then year two, you brought on your COO.
We brought on Rob, who eventually was our COO, and 3 other reps. So we had 4 reps and me that were out selling. And then year 3 is when we kind of, the first reason we did that is because year 1, we didn't want to go in debt. Yeah, we didn't want to go in debt, so it's like, let's just get some revenue going. So I sold about $500,000 in revenue, which you might think, well, that's not even great. It's like $500,000 in 2003 comparative to today is like $1 million.
That's awesome,
so it was a great start for us. So then we could afford a team the next year, a small team with me still supplementing with my own personal sales. Totally sacrificed. Like I didn't take commissions. Like I was just like, this is for the greater good. Then year 3 is when we blew it up and had like 30 reps, and just crushed and just killed it. So.
And that was still here in Salt Lake?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that summer, because speaking of like reps not being able to crack the code to sell personally, there's a lot of leaders in the industry that see the potential in this job, but they can't crack the recruiting code. Yep. So that summer, you probably, the previous 2 years, that wasn't really the focus. I guess, how did you go and build a team? Like, what were you doing at the time? Is that still kind of relevant today to how guys would build a team? How would you go build a team today if you were to go do it all over again?
To me, it always starts with my personal network, and that's changed. Like over time, it was my peers when I was in the 90s, right? People about my age and that. Now it's like my kids and their friends now. It's their it's their people that they hang out with in their group. So I think it just depends on your stage of life. But I always start with my personal network, because I was confident enough in what I was doing and how I was doing it, as far as being ethical and doing it the right way, where I didn't have to just go on random college campuses. Like we were recruiting people we all knew, and so that was important for us, because we felt 100% great that we were going to teach them the right way to do it, and we had a fantastic service to back up everything they were selling.
Okay, so once you tap that out, a lot of guys nowadays are using social media. Some are doing it organically. They're posting reels, and there's a lot of fluff out there with that too.
Sure.
So I guess the problem is guys lose. They might do really well with that. They'll build a team, and then they can't retain a lot of their reps either.
Yeah.
So how are you able to like build loyalty and culture within your organization? Because nobody goes through an acquisition like you did without building a company the right way, building culture the right way. So what were some of the things that probably to you just came naturally?
Sure.
But like now looking back retrospectively, what helped you kind of build like a strong culture and organization?
I mean, the thing about our number one, and this was our leadership training, like the number one principle we had was always make sure every rep in your office has a fantastic experience this summer. And that's a little bit subjective. That can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. So they had to get to know their reps on a personal level to find out what that was. Nowadays, there's companies that actually hire somebody called a dream manager, which I think is a really cool concept. I don't know if you've heard of that. But the idea is you talk to your employees and say, what is your dream in the next 5 to 10? Like, do you want to own a home? Do you want to take a trip around the world? Do you want to, what is a dream that you want to accomplish? And then that person tells you, my dream is this. You know, I want to do a 7-night stay at Disneyland Tokyo or whatever. And it's like, okay, what's that going to cost? Let's break this down. And you actually have someone in your company that like helps that person realize that dream. And then you get the buy-in from the spouse and the kids, and everybody's excited about it. So now when you got to go out and freaking knock doors and it's, you know, raining and crappy weather, and your wife looks at you in the eye and she says, honey, like this is the dream, right? The dream goal. We're going to do the Tokyo trip or whatever that dream is. We're going to buy a house. We're going to be homeowners. Like now you get buy-in from that person to help them fulfill their dreams. Okay. Right? And then that's really, once you kind of figure that out, and we were doing that without really knowing that concept, but that's kind of what we were trying to do is like, what do you want this to be? Do you just want to pay for school? Is that why you're here? Do you want to get a new car? Do you want to whatever? Do you want to buy your own, you know, townhome? Whatever it was. And then we try to fit what we could do to help them get there into what that summer experience might look like. Okay. So yeah, I think the concept of just helping people get to where they want to go, right? It was, I don't know, Zig Ziglar or somebody that's like, you know, you have big enough goals or big enough dreams so that you can fit everybody else's under you in those. So you start helping enough people reach their goals and dreams, you're going to reach yours no problem. Yeah.
It's like we have this, it was one of the partners at RID that gave this training where there's kind of two spectrums as a leader, I guess. There's managers on one side who are very just like, go knock the doors, yep, go put in the hours, hit your numbers. And then on the other side of the spectrum as a leader is a friend, yeah, where it's just somebody that's just like, I want to be there for you. I want the best for you. And I think a good leader finds a balance between the two where it's what you said, you understand your reps, you understand what their goals are, what they want to accomplish, who they're trying to be, what they want to do with their lives. And then, so that's the manager piece of it. And then the friend side of it is just like, how can I keep you accountable to like what you want? Yeah. This, you know.
I kid you not, on the way here, so I've got a guy that's doing some blitzing for another operation that I'm doing in the roofing industry. And he's blitzing in Atlanta right now. Okay. And I just did kind of my daily check-in as I'm driving here. And he just sounded like crap. He's like, bro, I got food poisoning at Panera yesterday. I'm dying. But he was out knocking. He's like, I literally just threw up on a lady's porch. And he's like, it was horrible.
Still going though.
And so what do I do, right? To your point, as a manager and a friend, like he's there on a timetable. His last day there is tomorrow. We're a little under projection where we want to be. So if I was strictly manager, I'd have been like, bro, freaking sack up and just go out there and freaking make it happen. You got to go home tomorrow. Yeah. But you got to find that balance of, bro, like you need to take a couple hours off. You need to go get some rest, like hydration. Like what can I do for you? Like that's my favorite question to ask when somebody has a problem. It's like, well, what can I do for you? You know, and then you have that understanding and the dude knows I support him 100% regardless. Ultimately, it's going to be his decision, right? I hope he goes and gets some rest so that he can be amped up for a huge Saturday. But you know, we'll kind of see what happens, but you can't just always be like, crack the whip, like, oh, you got to go, and you got to just, you know, whatever. I think the laziest advice managers can give is just go work harder when their reps have a problem or when their reps aren't succeeding. It's the laziest advice you can give. Yeah, now, it could be part of the problem, right? It could be part of it. But really, let's find out. This is why I'm so big on processes and systems, because let's find out why that rep isn't succeeding. Let's just not say go knock more doors, go work harder. That's the easy answer. But let's find out specifically, what are they saying? Or are they not talking to enough people in a given day? Like where's the real rub that is causing them not to be successful? So I think real leadership and real mentors really kind of dig below the surface and try to find out a little bit more about how they can help their people to be successful.
That was, you know, again, I don't do door-to-door anymore, but that was probably the biggest flaw I look back on and feel like I had was I was very much managerial, to the book, just get the job done. I've dealt with problems with my life and I've figured it out myself. Yep. And that's just kind of how I
figured everybody else would be the same way, right? Yeah.
And that's not the case, and that's okay. And what I've realized is as I've tried, and I'm not perfect by any means, of just taking a genuine interest in other people's lives, that's the way more fun side of leadership. Yeah. Watching people grow and seeing them progress and hitting their goals and what they want to do, that's the fun side of things.
So. And it's the least selfish. And that can be a really bad thing, especially in our door-to-door world, is selfishness. Because somebody wants the most of this or wants to make this and that. But really, I'm telling you, I think at some point I had the same epiphany, is when you really are just trying to help out other people, it actually reciprocates back to you anyway, and you end up being the beneficiary more so than you ever would have if you'd have just been like the hardcore, like, oh, you just got to do this, you know?
Sure.
So.
Well, Lenny, I don't want to keep you too long. You've got bigger and better things. I guess speaking of, before I let you go, a couple last questions. What are you kind of up to now? What's life look like for you now?
Yeah, life for me now. My wife and I had a surprise baby, so we got a 4-year-old. So
I saw you posted a photo the other day.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but she's so cute.
She is
so cute.
She is. Thank goodness she's cute and really good.
I don't know why, but I just like smiled when I saw that photo, like because I know you have a big gap between kids.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah, it is. It is awesome. So obviously, learning how to reparent, with having 4 kids that are almost all of them out of the house, but our last one's going to graduate from high school this year. So yeah, so we love that. Doing some traveling but yeah, no, really. My day-to-day grind is still the same. Like, I love work. I tell people all the time, like, work is my hobby. I don't golf. I don't do all these things. Like, I love to work. I love to be with my family. I love to serve, in my community, in my church, and that kind of, like, that's who I am. Like, I'm not like super deep, but as far as like I have a lot of depth and hobbies and different things that I do, other than the cold plunge and the red light. No, but I do. I love helping people out. I do a ton of consulting. I've consulted in 42 different home service verticals right now with just different companies. In fact, I got to tell you one quick story. So yesterday, my mom got these holiday light or Christmas light or whatever, just the seasonal lights they installed on the house, right? That's a big thing, especially in Utah right now.
Ours
door to door. Okay, so in fact, one of the guys hit me up after. I don't know if you saw after I did that leadership meeting. He hit me up to try to sell me, and I was
really?
like, props to him. Like, hey, he pulled his shot. So good for him. So if he's listening, like, I really appreciated the sales pitch. But my parents were having issues with it, and my parents are older, and so. They were talking to the owner of the company, and my mom could not figure out what was going on. The lights, literally, it's Christmas, right? It's December, and they had flashing green and purple lights, and they're embarrassed, right? And they're like, neighbors are saying whatever. Yeah. So I'm like, let me come over and I'll talk to the owner. Let me just talk to him. And so I get on the phone, and the owner's like, I explained who I was, and he said, wait, you're the Lenny Gray, and I was like, yeah. Like, what's your name? Like, I don't know who you are. And he told me his name. And he's like, I talked to you. You did some consulting for me. I was in the solar space. And then I started this company 5 years ago. I got 22 employees now. I'm just killing it. And he's like, dude, you taught me, and your books and everything that you do, I follow you on social media. He's like, dude, you've helped build our business. And he was just like, I'm like, dude, I just need to know how the app works. Like, I appreciate the glaze, but I'm like, I just need to help my mom out, right?
That's so
But no,
cool.
It was really cool to just talk to a random guy that, I had no idea that I had communicated with in the past. So I love that. I love helping. I have a lot of clients that I work with on a regular basis as they're putting together programs, and they're trying to perfect their program or make their programs better, like just to help people out. So that's really what I feel like my calling is just I help people out. So if they need help on recruiting, if they need help on training and scripts, on sales, whatever it is, like I'm just a resource that I hope people resonate with. I do a lot of speaking engagements as well across the country. People have me go speak at events, and it's just fun.
You spoke here, and now we have you back for the podcast because you did such a good job.
There it is.
So one last question for kind of the audience that would be listening to this podcast with you kind of doing some consulting. What would you consult to anybody listening to this that wants to go out and, let's just say it's sales reps. Mm-hmm. Let's just say sales reps in general. What's the best advice you could give to somebody in order to maximize like what they're doing with their lives? If they're selling, like all the life lessons. I think everybody would look at your life and be like, "Oh man, Lenny has it easy. He's done. Look at him now." But they don't know all this stuff that you went through over the years to get to where you're at and what you've earned. So how can anybody else go and build what you've built or do what you've done?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's like, you're an overnight success after 27 years, right? Like that's the thing. It's like, oh, this guy. I would say definitely, I would say prioritize what needs to be prioritized is huge for me. Like I think I might have mentioned in that leadership training, but like my wife and I have been married for 27 years, right? And my wife was there with me summer 1 all the way until now, right? And we have a planning meeting every week, like every week, Sunday night, 9:30. We have a planning meeting, and we just go through the week and what's going on in that. That's super important, and so that's something that has been important for me because I am a planner. She's not a planner, so I really appreciate her coming on board with me. Just say like, do me this favor, like let's just plan things out
for you.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just being true to who you are, like valuing your relationships with the most important people, serving other people. There's just huge blessings. I totally believe in that. Like this whole idea of the law of reciprocity, like the more you give, the more you get. I'm a huge believer in that. And I would just say, just do it the right way. You know, you can sell with integrity, you can sell with a passion, and you can sell a ton of accounts. And you don't have to compromise who you are and what you're about. And I think if you set yourself up, just that foundation, like if you have that foundationally, like everything else to me just seems to build off of those things. But if you got to be the person that has to wonder, what did I say, or what did I tell this person and not that person, and you got to question, like there's so much like mental exercise and exhaustion that comes from just not being truthful, not just being honest, not just being who you are, true to the person you are. I think you just got to start there. That to me is the foundation.
Love it. Well, Lenny, you're the man. Go buy Lenny's books. Go follow him on social media. The Lenny Gray. The
Lenny Gray on Insta, yeah, or I'm all over Facebook, LinkedIn, X. Yeah, I don't know if we want to talk about top 5. I mean, we could talk about that, but my newsletter subscribers vote every year for my top 5. So if you're interested in seeing the RID hit the top 5, as far as I put out a survey,
yes,
so we might want to talk about this.
Talking about.
So I put out a survey every year because people ask me, what company should I sell for? What company should I sell for? And there's so many companies. I don't know. So I have thousands of newsletter subscribers. You go to D2DMillionaire.com/newsletter. Okay. All you have to do, you fill out your contact information. You're going to get 2 things from me. You're going to get a weekly sales tip that's just going to make you better. They're gold nuggets every single week. I put these gold nuggets out there for my subscribers, so I'm just going to help you get better. So if you're interested in that. And then it's like January or February, I put out a survey. And I basically say, tell me what company you work for, and then we're going to measure your experience with that company on 8 different measurables, like compensation, leadership, incentives, comp plan, sales training, like there's 8 of them. And I take those rankings, put them all in the mixer, and you have to have like 15 to 25, I can't remember the exact number that they'll do this year, but you have to have so many surveys. It can't be like one company with the owner just like, hey, I'm all 5s. But it's real, and it's real numbers coming from the real people that have been out there on the streets, and I put out my top 5. And RID has not been in my top 5 yet, but I probably just don't have enough newsletter subscribers. So I'm going to challenge the guys, just follow me. Like I said, it's an easy follow, and all you're going to get is these weekly sales tips that are just going to help you get better. So anyway, we're
going to make the top 5. We'll make it.
Okay.
Lenny, you're the man. Guys, see you next time.